Hey y'all. Welcome back to Andy's Little Homestead. This morning I woke up to a surprise that I didn't want. I cut the generator on to run the well pump. I heard it struggling and I had no water. Then I came down here and found my entire well pit washed in with sand. I got a nice little sinkhole over behind me and no water. And this is a problem that needs addressed right now. I was able to figure out pretty quick what I believe happened. This coupling right here, the hydrant came off. I don't know if it was a water hammer or whatever, but I'm pretty sure it was just dumping water at high pressure into the pit which is not sealed very well, and it just washed all that crap down in there. So I reckon we're gonna pull some crap apart down here and start shoveling. So part of the reason that I'm kind of struggling with this right now is I need a second pipe wrench that I left in the pit that's now buried. That was a tactical error on my part, but we'll get it out of here. There we go. I'm beginning to wish that I made this pit just a little wider. Of course, if I was an actual plumber, I wouldn't have stuff exploding down in here. So, you know, you live and learn. All right, so I think the problem that we had was that this motor can't turn through a pile of sand. But I don't think it's burned up because it definitely tried to turn on. So we'll pull this cover off and clean this out. I'll go ahead and take a picture of where my wires are so when I put it back together, I know where they belong. That's a pro tip. So I tried getting all the sand out of it by poking in there, but she's packed full. So you know, I've never taken one of these apart before, but that's no reason to not take it apart. So we're gonna take it apart, try and get it cleaned out. So I pulled these long bolts out to try and remove the case, and I pulled all the wires out after taking a picture. I can't figure out how this case comes off. Maybe it's some kind of specialized tool. Maybe you have to actually know what you're doing, but we're just gonna try and blow it out with the air hose. And if we can get most of it, I think it'll be all right. All right, so I was trying to put the case back together and the long bolts didn't want to go through. Apparently they got completely packed full of sand as I was blowing things around. So I grabbed this little piece of wire and fish everything out. Get out of there. All right, so we got it all put back together. I only stripped out one of the long bolt holes. So, you know, 3 out of 4 is pretty good. That's 750 batting average. Everything sounds better when you do it as a batting average. And I looked over the pictures very carefully and got the wires back in. So before we go ahead and actually reinstall everything, we're gonna go hook this up to 240 and cut the generator on, make sure it spins. I really hope it spins. All right, so we got everything hooked back up electrically. We're gonna go ahead and test this. You really don't want to run these pumps while dry, but if we can at least know that it's spinning, we probably solved most of our problems for the day. So I'm gonna leave the camera down here and then I'm gonna go up and start the generator, let it run for a second, come back, and well, then I'm gonna check this camera. Well, I just listened to that video and it didn't sound great. So I don't know if that's just because it's dry or if I screwed something up. All right, so here's my plan. Whether it works or whether I've got to replace it, the same pump is what's going in here. And I need to kind of reset everything because the way that I had it set up before was based entirely on the nipples that I had. It's a common problem. I make a lot of decisions based off of my nipples. But now with it all apart, we can kind of do it in a way that makes more sense. So I'm gonna get this pump set up down in here. May have to buy some new nipples, that's a problem. But we'll see if we can get this squared away first, and if it works, great. If not, well, that's disappointing, but we'll figure it out from there. All right, so I've spent the better part of the last hour down here in this hole playing with my nipples, and I think we've got something with what we have that works out 90% of it. Went ahead and got a couple street elbows and nipples in there, reduced it down to 3/4, T into the tank, and then we'll have to put a union from there to there. Definitely not going back with this one. Not doing it. Now, before I actually doped everything up, I just dry fitted everything, because you're gonna put stuff together and take it apart 100 times. Unless you're working with a longer pipe and you got a pipe threader, you can measure and cut everything as it is. Probably best to dry fit first. So we're gonna put together what we got, run to the hardware store for the rest. Working with old nipples can be difficult because old nipples get crusty, but sometimes you just gotta work with the nipples you're given. And for the final hookup, there we go. All right, so now we've got to prime the system before we turn it on, because these pumps cannot move air, they can only move water. So I've got this valve right here, and I'm gonna open that up, pull this cap, but I'm also gonna leave this union loose. That way the air can be pushed out of the system by the water that's going in, and then once everything's tightened down, I'll know 100% I have a prime. Anybody who's tried to prime a finicky well before knows the struggle, so hopefully we get it right. But Andy, you need water to prime the well, but you need the well for the water. We're good. This one still works. I do hope this works. Nothing's happening. Nothing going on down there. All right, y'all, my camera battery's about dead. I'm gonna mess with this for a little bit and get back to you. All right, y'all. Spent another couple hours last night trying to go through that pump and get it to work, and I can't figure out how to get the case apart. I can't make it move. So unfortunately, I bought a new pump, installed it this morning. Luckily, I didn't have to rework much with the piping. She's down there, she's good, she's primed. Let's see if we got water again. Well, the pump kicked on and we got water. That's beautiful. I'm happy to see water flowing again. So now from here, we're gonna do just a couple adjustments on the pump, make sure everything's good. You may or may not be able to see from here, but our sprinklers are not putting out anywhere near the pressure that we need. That one ain't even turning. So we need to crank up the pressure on the well. Ironically, that's probably what caused the last pipe to blow up, but it's not likely to happen again, probably. But before I go down there, I got this cracked open, so it's just pissing out a little bit of water, because the pressures that we're adjusting are at what point the well pump cuts on and what point it cuts off. Most jet pumps come factory preset with like a 30 psi cut on, and they cut off at 50. So when that needle drops down to 30, the pump will kick on, bring it back up to 50. So without any taps open, this pressure tank right here has 50 psi in it, and it's available so that you're not cutting the pump on every time a tap opens. Now to adjust these pressures, right underneath this cover here, we've got two springs. One's for cut on, one's for cut off. I don't remember which one was which. But if you tighten those springs down or loosen them up, it'll adjust those pressures. Now I got 240 volts going into that, so it would be best to cut off my electrical supply before I start messing with them. Okay, so I've been down in this hole for probably 2 hours, and I've read and gone over adjusting these a million times, but I had a bit of an epiphany as I was trying to get this one right, and I figured I'd share it with y'all. It's a problem that tens of people have probably encountered. Which dang spring does what? So I finally figured out how to do this. The first spring, the big one, that determines the cut on pressure, whatever pressure it is where that pump kicks on. Now the second spring determines the cut off pressure, but it does it as a range. So the more you tighten that second one, the greater the pressure range is. So if cut on is 30 and cut off is 50, and I tighten this one down and don't touch that one, I could bring it up to 40 and 60. But if cut on is 30 and cut off is 50, I tighten both of them down, I'm gonna end up with 40 and 70. So that's the pressure it cuts on at, and that's the range. Back it out less range, tighten it down, more range. Which is important because if you were to just send both of them home to Jesus, yeah, it'll cut on at a higher pressure, like, 40, 45, 50, but it'll never cut off. It'll either burn itself up or the thermal overload will cut it off for you. So that's a fun thing that I learned after like 2.5 hours in this hole. But you know what? Experience is a good teacher and I won't never forget it. So we got the pump set to cut on at 50 and cut off at 65. This pump really can't do much more than 70, but I think we're still in a safe range and getting the pressure we need. So from here, we'll get everything cleaned up. All right, y'all, the well is once again functional. This definitely isn't something that I really wanted to do this week, but we got it taken care of. I was hoping that I'd be able to get that other one going again. At some point, maybe through the winter, I'll go through it, really take the time. But when you don't have water, that becomes the #1 problem. You want to solve it as quick as possible. And hey, even buying the new well pump was cheaper than calling somebody. So we got it done, we got it dialed in. I'm happy. As always, I hope y'all enjoyed and I hope you learned something. I love you, God bless. I normally end these with a joke. This wasn't very fun, I don't have a joke. But I'm gonna show y'all my new Dolly Parton shirt. My wife got it for me at Walmart. Pretty psyched about it. That's it. That's all I got. You can move on with your lives now.